This week, America watched another horrifying moment unfold. What should have been a formal evening in Washington turned into chaos when a gunman was stopped at the White House Correspondents' Dinner before he could reach the ballroom where President Trump, the First Lady, Vice President J.D. Vance, and top administration officials were gathered. The White House has called this the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in just 2 years. And once again, the country is being forced to confront something deeper than just one disturbed individual. What kind of atmosphere has been created in this nation? What kind of hatred has been normalized? What kind of spiritual darkness keeps driving people toward violence? You can debate policy. You can disagree politically. But when the language of demonization becomes constant, when people are painted as monsters day after day, eventually someone unstable decides they are justified in acting on it. And that is where we are. Today, we're going to look at the news. We're going to look at the spiritual pattern behind it, and we're going to look at what my dad, Kim Clement, warned years ago about lone wolves, attacks on America, and the need for the church not to retreat in fear. This is a spiritual battle over a nation, over leadership, and over whether the people of God will respond with fear or with faith. So let's have a look at the news, and we'll come back.
They are lone wolf individuals who are trained to cripple various states in the United States of America.
It was just after 8:30 p.m. Saturday when a sudden commotion from the back of the White House Correspondents' Dinner sent us scrambling, many ducking under tables as Secret Service rushed the president and other Trump cabinet members from the room.
I just want to go find
In fact, they've done the opposite. They've incited violence, in my view. I mean, you have some of the most prominent figures in the House and the Senate on the Democrat side effectively, calling for war. I mean, they use those kinds of metaphors. And it incites violence because there are crazy people in society.
This keeps happening to you.
Well, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after.
And I know the times and the seasons that we're in. Yes, it's the end time. Yes, there are great persecution. Yes, Antichrist is present. But the kingdom is also present.
Thank you for joining us today again. And Christy Desfontaine is here. And we are going to just hear a little bit of more detail from Christy now. Welcome, Christy. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. What happened in Washington this weekend was not just another headline. Secret Service stopped the would-be assassin before entering the ballroom, and the administration is now reviewing security protocols again after calling this the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in just 2 years. And one of the most emotional moments to come out of that night was the footage of Erica Kirk, visibly shaken in tears, saying she wanted to go home as she was escorted from the building. And that moment says so much. This nation is tired. People are grieving. People are on edge. And many are realizing that the hatred in this country has gone way too far. Now, I want to say something clearly. As believers, we do not justify violence from any side. We do not celebrate chaos. We do not answer darkness with darkness. But we also cannot ignore what is happening. There has been a steady, relentless attempt in this country to spiritually and culturally destroy President Trump. Not just to oppose him, not just to challenge him, but completely dehumanize him and anyone connected to him. And when I think about that, I think about David. Because once David was mocked by God, he was also targeted by the enemy. Saul could not tolerate what rested on David's life. He feared the favor of God on David. He resented the anointing on David. And again, Saul tried to destroy him. He threw spears at him. He chased him. He hunted him, but he never succeeded. And that is such an important biblical pattern for us right now. Because when God has placed his hand on someone for purpose, The attacks may be real, the hatred may be fierce, and the pursuit may be relentless, but the enemy does not get the final word. Psalm 37 tells us, the wicked plots against the just and gnashes at him with his teeth. The Lord laughs at him, for he sees that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, to slay those who are of upright conduct. Their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. That does not mean that the attacks are not real. It means that the attack does not have the final word. The plotting may be real. The hatred may be real. The pressure may be real, but God still sees. God still rules. And God is still able to preserve what he has appointed. And that is why this moment matters so much, because Kim Clement prophesied that President Trump would be like a David, an unlikely vessel, fiercely opposed, constantly attacked, but preserved for a purpose larger than himself. So when we see these repeated attempts, these repeated attacks, these repeated efforts to destroy, we should not only see the rage of the enemy, we should also recognize the preserving hand of God. That brings us to this first word from Kim Clement, where he warns specifically about lone wolf individuals, attacks against the innocent, and the urgent need for the people of God to pray for exposure. So we're going to go to April 18th of 2013 now.
I'm awake in California, and I feel that this search for these terrorists will end soon. However, they are lone wolf individuals who are trained to cripple various states in the United States of America. These states need to be protected. Their souls need to be protected. The enemies are determined and motivated. And then I heard the name Paul. I was led to pray for various states, and the South was a concern. Let's join together and pray for exposure, for God to expose the individuals who are plotting an attack in the South, the mountains, and against the innocent. There is a cult that is ready to do anything to destroy our faith. They will be exposed. But will it be too late? We need to pray that God intervenes as he did with Saul of Tarsus.
So listen, Christy, and everybody watching, I have had this prophecy, and we've used it a number of times, because when he saw the name Paul, that Paul was ultimately apprehended. So it's something that he had been picking up on back then. He heard the name Paul, and then Paul was later found to be one of these lone wolf individuals back in 2013. But what's interesting here is what he sees about that these lone wolf attacks are not just someone sitting somewhere and getting an idea and doing something, that it's, there's more to it. And he even references a cult. And, Christy, it's something that, is undeniable right now, because he speaks about a cultic hatred against faith and against the soul of the nation. And if we look at the environment, you have the man who went after President Trump, supposedly lone wolf, unfortunately a teacher. So we know where this is coming from, the ideas he had about President Trump being a fascist, being a Nazi, being a rapist, whatever they've come up with. The people who are believing it believe that they're doing the right thing and stopping Hitler.
Yeah.
Although the hypocrisy in that is
unbelievable.
And so we are repeatedly seeing these supposed lone wolf attacks that aren't actually really lone wolf, because that person on their own would never have come to those conclusions and done the attacks. Tyler Robinson is another example. This is a young kid who somehow went from being conservative, going to school, and then changing his views, and became radicalized to the point that he planned, got what he needed. I mean, that takes a lot. It's not just some spur of the moment thing where someone's like, I'm going to go do it, grab my gun, let's go. And within a day or these things are planned for a long time. And, I think about, a normal person planning something like that and justifying it and then taking the time to get everything they need. Some of these people have written on bullets. We've seen in some of the school attacks, what's written on bullets it's always against Trump and against Israel that we're seeing. And so I'm taking this warning from my dad back in 2013 very seriously. And also, the church, how do we deal with it? We have a warning about this danger. We're watching the fulfillment of that. And, it is normal to feel fearful because at any point, someone with a gun could just start shooting. And, how do we deal with that? And so I'd love to hear what you have to say about that, Christy.